Let's get right to Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai with the latest on the war in Iran. Lucas.
Well, good early morning, Carly and Todd from Dubai. The Emirates has announced it's dismantled a Hezbollah and Iran-linked terrorist network here in the Emirates. That's coming overnight. There are over 500,000 Iranians that live here in the UAE, as the Pentagon announcing it's deployed A-10 and Apache helicopter gunships to destroy those little boats associated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Here's President Trump at the White House with a battle update brief.
We've obliterated their Navy. We've obliterated their just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone. We're flying wherever we want, Pete. We have nobody even shooting at us. Their leaders are gone. They picked new leaders, they're gone. They picked new leaders, they're gone. And now they're looking for new leaders again.
After pressure from President Trump on European and Asian allies to do more to help open the Strait of Hormuz, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, the Dutch, Japan, whose prime minister visited the White House yesterday, and we can talk about that funny moment later, and Canada, perhaps HMCS Montreal is available in a new joint statement calling on Iran to cease its attacks and open the strait and cease attacks on energy facilities throughout the Middle East. Early this morning, multiple Iranian drones hit a Kuwaiti oil refinery, causing a partial shutdown. Drone attacks on Saudi Arabia continue, as well as here in the Emirates. And yesterday, Iran attacking the largest gas field in the world off the coast of Qatar, causing $20 billion in damage, 17% knocked offline, with repairs expected to last up to 5 years. Iran claims it retaliated for an Israeli strike on the same gas field it shares with Qatar, that northern part there. Now, CENTCOM also providing some new drone imagery, some kill TV, if you will, showing an Iranian ballistic missile factory destroyed after U.S. jets bombed it. Now, here in Dubai early this morning, air defenses were active. Over the course of this war of the past 3 weeks, Iran has launched more than 2,000 drones and missiles here at the Emirates. That's more than twice the number fired at Israel, guys.
Lucas Tomlinson live for us this morning. Lucas, thank you.
Thank you, Lucas.
Back here at home, this is the question. Could some big moves be coming from the Trump administration as they focus on energy markets and, of course, securing the Strait of Hormuz?
Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the new action from the White House. Hi, Maddie.
Good morning, Todd and Carly. President Trump says he will do what's needed to stop oil prices from climbing after those tit-for-tat attacks between Israel and Iran on oil and gas facilities throughout the Middle East, shaking up markets. Crude oil prices now hovering at around $100 a barrel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel acted alone, and President Trump says he spoke with Netanyahu.
You talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields.
Yeah, I did. I told him don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. You know, we do. We're independent. We get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
The administration is considering other actions as well. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says they may lift sanctions on Iranian oil that's already at sea. Vice President J.D. Vance also met with oil executives on Thursday, where they stressed they are not planning to implement restrictions on oil and gas exports. The president says Operation Epic Fury will end soon, yet the Pentagon is asking for a $200 billion supplemental request for the war.
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond.
The bill faces an uphill battle, though. Some budget hawks in the House will certainly demand offsets, and several Democrats have already expressed no desire to pass the legislation. Todd and Carly.
Madeline Rivera live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. Let's bring in Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. Dan, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Give us your assessment on where this war stands right now as we are set to approach week 3.
Yeah, so we're continuing to see Iran striking soft targets, oil refineries in Qatar and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. That's the essence of their asymmetric warfare. The United States and Israel are hitting Iran's military-industrial complex, decapitating their leadership, targeting senior intelligence officers. And what Iran wants to do is drive up the price, literally, for the United States and Israel of carrying on this war, drive up the price of oil. The Iranian leadership, what's left of it, is certainly very well aware of the political pressure that President Trump faces in the Congress and from the American voters about the rise of the price of gasoline. And they're hoping that we will stop this war short of ending the regime or changing the regime's behavior.
Well, when it comes to that, President Trump did take a lot of questions yesterday, and here he is forecasting the future. Watch this.
Mr. President, do you intend to lift sanctions on Iranian oil, and do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops.
So obviously the president isn't going to give details on anything having to do with something like that, but there could be a level of severity or seriousness in terms of what he's saying. So if that's the case, no troops on the ground, what are, Dan, the advantages and drawbacks of that?
I mean, it would be a significant escalation for the United States if we were to put troops on the ground, whether to find the roughly 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium that is still there in reportedly in Isfahan that we'd like to get, or to take Kharg Island. There are limits to what air power alone can do. We have absolutely degraded Iran's capacity to inflict harm on the rest of the region and the world by destroying their ballistic missiles and the launchers and their factories and the drones. But at the same time, Iran retains some capability. The DNI testified to that effect to Congress, said the regime is degraded but intact. And so the question for the Trump administration that I expect President Trump is asking Director Ratcliffe is, how much farther do we need to go? How close is Iran to capitulating? The Iranians will look strong until the end. Their regime survival is at stake here. And they're going to continue to fire off whatever missiles they have, even as we pound their country into oblivion.
Yeah, well, because they are so degraded, as you say, Dan, that could explain why public executions have resumed in Iran. And this week, we're learning that 3 men, including this 19-year-old champion wrestler whose name is Salah Mohammadi, they were executed by the regime. They were accused of killing 2 police officers during the January protests. But activist groups, man, they say they were not given a fair trial and forced to confess to this crime by torture. And there are a lot of Olympians now speaking out against the death of this young athlete. And of course, these public executions are intended to clamp down on protesters. What's your reaction to this and the prospect that Iranians could take to the streets and take back control of their country in the face of this?
Yeah, I think Iran's extreme repression of any protest at all certainly reflects how precarious the regime's hold is on the country and how tenuous their grip is on the domestic protests that we've seen, not just over the past 6 months, but over the past few years, going back to the Green Movement. The challenge for the protesters is that there's still roughly 100,000 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the besieged paramilitary militia that is there to suppress protests violently. And that's the message from the Iranian government to its own people is, do not take this opportunity while we are facing off against the United States and Israel to think that you can overthrow our regime. Now, autocracies are brittle, and sometimes we in the public are surprised when all of a sudden they collapse internally. And that's another question I think President Trump will be asking his intelligence community, just how this regime, this Iranian regime, how strong their hold is on the country. But at this point, they continue to be able to repress the population and ensure that there is no ultimate threat from the domestic population to the regime.
Yeah, with public hangings, which is just horrifying. And Iran is known to target athletes, young, healthy people who are well known, to strike even greater fear in the masses. And that, of course, calls to mind the Iranian women's soccer team, which is now back on Iranian soil. And there's, of course, great concern for their futures because they were labeled wartime traitors. So that concern is sadly for very good reason. Dan, we have to leave it there, but thank you again for joining us this morning. It's good to see you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.